People have any questions, if people have any questions at up front, before I mute all, except myself. All right, I'm going to do that. And can everyone still hear me? Give a thumbs up if you have your video. Awesome. All right, I'm going to let you know that this is recorded. I saw that Frankie had enabled that. So those you can pass on to people who you know are not able to attend and they're interested in that. This will be on our website. And I will have directions in the slide deck I'm going to present on where that will be located. I am going to let you know that if you have questions, I would like you to put it in the chat. And Frankie Sears, our Scout executive, is going to monitor that and he'll pose them to me during the presentation if it is appropriate for that, or we'll wait till the end of the presentation to follow up with those questions. Okay, so I'm gonna do the share screen and get the slide deck up. Okay, can everybody still see that? Frankie, can you see the presentation? Okay, so this is the instructions for the 2024 recharters. I will tell you good news for those of you who did last year's. It's pretty much the same. So there's not going to be a lot of new things, but my slide deck is targeting also for any new ones. And it's also to address some of the issues that people had last year and some tips and tricks that I'm giving to maybe avoid some problems. So who can do the Internet Recharter for a unit? Any key 3 leader of a unit can access the Recharter roster in Internet Advancement 2.0. And who are the key 3 of a unit? That's your unit leaders. And in our different types of units, that means either a Cub Master, Scout Master, a Crew Advisor, or an Exploring Post Advisor. The other 2 are the Committee Chair and the Chartered Organization Representative. And I may refer to that position in an abbreviation as a CR in my subsequent slide deck. In the example of an exploring post, that comparable position is the executive officer. There is an additional way for another registered adult to access the Internet Recharter if one of the key 3 leaders assigns the functional role of key 3 delegate to them. And that's done through my.scouting account for your Q3 leaders. It is not through Scoutbook. So it's where you do your youth protection training. That's what I mean when I talk about my.scouting. And I'm showing you this slide deck that you would click on menu, and then you would click on organization manager under organization. But I know there's a lot of you that are multiple key 3 leaders and other units. So you want to make sure in that box that's underneath organization that you have the correct unit selected in the drop down. So once you have organization manager viewing and in the correct unit, then you click on position manager. It will default to the register positions, but you see that I have in red functional roles. That's what you would click on to get to where you can assign another registered adult in the unit to be a key 3 delegate. And you do that by clicking on the add plus sign. And you'll see a drop down of the other registered leaders that you can select. And you would want to then save changes, a button that's on the lower right once you have selected the person. When is the Internet Recharter open? Well, it's actually open now, but I know everyone is not had that in their mind. There are a few that are trying to get ready by turning in applications to me to process already to save you all the trouble of uploading them during the Internet Recharter process. So the Internet Recharter window is open from October 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2024. But before you go in there, because once you initiate that, it's difficult to go back on things. So I'd like you, before you go into Internet Advancement 2.0, to download your unit's roster from my.scouting.org. And again, this is not the Scout Book roster. Scout Book is not matching my.scouting because you can add functional roles to adults or to parents, and they may not be registered. So it's very important that you go through your my.scouting.org account in order to access that roster. You want to check that roster that you see in my.scouting.org against whatever records you have for your unit registrants. Make sure you have everybody. If you don't, it's best to get that to me so that I can enter them in or encourage the people to do online registrations. Note that when they do that, they're paying for it themselves. So keep that in mind when trying to get ready for your Internet Recharter. You also want to check from that roster that the correct people are in the key 3 positions. Remember, those are the only people that have access to Internet Recharter. They're the only ones who are going to get the email notifications about it. And I will send out an instruction reminder about Recharter after this training too. And if you're not listed as key 3, you're not going to get it. So make sure you get those applications in, or again, do the online registration in order to get them logged into your unit. You want to, if you see that somebody isn't, and I know there are some cases where people aren't, then you want to make sure I have them. And once I do, if you are going to be showing that person the process of it, I highly recommend that you keep yourself a key 3 delegate. So I already talked about that function, how you could do that. That's something to keep in mind if there have been changes to key 3 positions. Note that you have to have, in order to submit a charter, a minimum number of adult positions. So it's 5 typically, but PACs need 1 additional, and that's the den leader. And exploring posts just need 4, and that would be 2 post committee members and the exploring advisor, and then the committee chair. So CR, remember I said that was abbreviation for Chartered Organization Rep. That person can fill 2 of the positions. So you may have less than 5 or less than 6 if you are having the CR do that. If additional adults are needed to meet the minimum positions, submit those applications to the council, to me, for processing prior to initiating the Internet Recharter. That avoids you having to upload the required documents, and that's 3 for adults. That would be the application signed by the Chartered Organization Rep, the CBC consent form, that's the background check consent form, and the YPT, Youth Protection Training Completion Certificate. It is much easier for me to have it entered already in your roster than you having to do that yourself. That means you have to save all those files to your computer as you're going through the process. For youth, it would just be the youth application if you're uploading new ones. But remember, if you upload any new youth, that fee is going to be 185 versus the 160 that it would typically be for the Internet Recharter process. The other thing is that you have to have a minimum of 2 youth members in order to submit an internet recharter. We prefer that there's a minimum of 5. If you have less than that, it's going to require that the Scout Executive Frankie signs off on it, but it is possible to submit for a minimum of 2. Next on that roster that you get from my.scouting.org, view the YPT expiration date column for the adults on the roster. They must be current with YPT throughout the posting of recharters by the council registrar. For example, if an adult's YPT expiration date of January, if they have an expiration date of January 31st, 2024, that will result in an error when I am bringing up the charter, preventing me from posting it, even though it allowed the unit's internet recharter processor to successfully submit it in 2023. The other thing to keep in mind, especially for our units that have older youth members, so that would be our troops, our crews, our posts. If you have any that are turning 18 and they're going to stay on your roster, then that will require an adult application, the CBC consent form, and a YPT completion certificate. If not submitting that to me prior to processing your internet recharter, that means that whoever's processing that charter will need to remove that person as a youth member and add the member as a participant or as an age appropriate adult position, like in troops, assistant scoutmaster or unit college scout or reserve. And then you have to upload the 3 above files that I highlighted there. The other thing to keep in mind is from that roster, view the membership status column of the roster. If an adult is listed as a multiple, check which other unit has paid the membership and if that will continue with the 2024 recharter. Your unit's charter cannot be verified by me until the other unit has submitted and paid for the recharter. I know we have many people that serve in multiple positions, so you want to have those conversations now. All right, where do you find that roster in my.scouting.org? You would click on menu, that's in the upper left when you're logged in. You select the unit in the box under organization and then click on roster. So there, you would, once the roster is up and it's going to list all, it will list your youth and your adults. If you want to filter it, you can with the filter tool, but I recommend clicking on the export roster of all. So you get a look at everything you need to know for preparation. So the helpful, and it's going to look like what I'm showing there. You have 2 options for exporting it. You can export to CSV, which would go to an Excel worksheet for you, or to export it as a PDF. It will kind of look like this as you're prepping to do that, and you'll see those, and you will see the buttons above in order to select how to export it. The helpful columns on this roster report are the YPT expiration report or YPT expiration date. Sorry, I meant to say that. And then for the adults specifically, you're looking at that. Make sure it's going to take them through the period of time that I am posting charters. And I'm going to say they want to for sure be current through March 2024. The other thing to look at is email. Is it accurate? Is that the email you use when you're communicating with those adults? And then the other thing is date of birth. You want to pay attention to this if you have older youth members to make sure they're not going to be turning 18 and you have to think about taking them out of that youth member status. And also look at the registration expiry report line, because that is going to let you know who's your new members, who are the new members that are on that 12-month membership cycle now, because they are not going to show a fee in your recharter, and you want to know and plan for when their registration is going to expire in 2024. And then the other one to pay attention to is that membership status column, and that will show you, as you can see, there are some that are listed as multiple. They're re-registered means that you are able to re-register them through a recharter. Transfer means that they were transferred into your unit. So like for troops, that means a lot of times the PAC, AOL, Arrow of Light people were transferred in. If you do not see an Arrow of Light scout that recently transferred into your unit on that report, guess what you need to do? You need to get the application to me. They are not going to magically show up. The other thing is that sometimes there'll be transfers from unit to unit, like at the same level from one troop to another troop. Just verify that that looks correct. Where do you access Internet Recharter? There are 3 different ways to enter. You can use your my.scouting.org account. So you know the boxes, the blue boxes that are on the upper right when you're logged in. You can hover over that BSA web links and you will see in the drop down Internet Advancement 2.0. That will allow you to enter in. You could also use your Scoutbook account to log in to Internet Advancement. You would log in and then you want to click on the home, see that home icon to get to the home page. Sometimes when you log into Scoutbook, it will go right to your My Administration page and where it lists your unit or your registration. It doesn't show that first home page. So you do want to make sure you're in the home page. And then you see in that menu listing, there is a line for Internet Advancement. You click on that. Or use a browser and enter the URL that I've listed on this page, https://advancements.scouting.org, and that will take you to the Internet Advancement page. So what do you use for username and password? Some of you already know this answer, some may not. It is the same username and password as you use for your my.scouting, and I abbreviated that, my MYS, or your Scoutbook SB account. Some of you do Google enabled or Apple enabled logins. So make sure you select that too, because you might not remember your password without selecting that. If any of you have issues with that for logging in, I do have access to a volunteer support tool to see if I can help you with that. If it is that it's a Google enabled or Apple enabled password, I usually have to submit a ticket to National for that because I can't see how to change that for you. So once you're in, have used your username and password, make sure you click on that box, I'm not a robot, and then that login button will highlight and you'll be able to click on it. So if your correct unit is displayed, you click on Recharter in the left menu. Remember when I said we have a lot of Key 3 leaders at multiple and other units? If you don't see that unit displayed first, you want to be in the upper right next to that BSA emblem. Select the arrow to get the drop down and click on the appropriate unit. As you see, I have many different roles here. So make sure you have the correct one selected, and then you can click on the Recharter word in the left menu. Once you're in, you're going to see that message that is displayed at this bottom of the screen. Recharter, we are ready to start the rechartering process, and the new default duration of 12 months will be set. And you confirm. All right, as I mentioned before at the beginning, the 2024 Internet Recharter process is the same as last year. The guide can be found on our website under the More header, Leader Resources, and you see that's highlighted on my screenshot there. And then another drop-down menu comes up and you want to click on Recharter Assistance. That's that last one in that drop-down menu. So once you're there, it gives some explanation. It will also have the Internet Recharter guide that fully explains each of the screens, but it won't show some of these new items that I have on this screen. The new items that I have displayed here are pertaining to the new youth and adults with the 12-month membership cycle. So they should show as 0 fee because they're already prepaid. There's going to be an icon. You see where there's that new that's under that highlighted symbol. To me, it looks kind of like a setting symbol with an exclamation in the middle. That is showing you that that's a new youth. And then your adults, if they're showing as 0, it's most likely that they were new. That means they were added sometime either in August of this year, October, and if you're doing recharter later, November and December. And when you get to the end stage, when you're selecting the pay option, you will see in the summary that there's now a new listings, yearly adult registration and yearly youth registration. And also if it's selected to do SL, Scout Life subscription, it'll show also if that person selected to have Scout Life registration. The other thing I forgot to mention is you do probably want to reach out to your registrants if they would like to have a Scout Life subscription, because this is the time to do it. It's extremely difficult to add in Scout Life later for registrants. It means we have, from the council side, we have to submit ACH payment to national. So that can take weeks and months before that happens. So this is the time to do it. So before you go into Recharter, you want to reach out to your registrants and say, do they want that? Tell them it would be an additional $15 in order to have that. So where you can do that, and on that screenshot, you can kind of see there's a Scout Life header, and underneath it looks like a toggle. So when it's highlighted, that means you've toggled it to yes, and that there would be a fee unless it is a prepaid member. All right, I'm asking you to be proactive and use the edit pencil icon to make changes to contact information for your registrants. I've mentioned that new 12-month membership cycle. So how National is managing that for new adults and new youth. They will, 60 days prior to that person's registration expiring, start sending emails. And if you want those people to get the email, we need to have the correct information in there. You are on the front line of getting that information. The parents tell you well before they ever tell us here at the council office about email changes. So we really need your help in doing this. So that all the way over to the right is the pencil icon. Something you want to be aware of. I heard this from other people last year. If your browser view is set too high, you will not see that pencil icon. And so you want to make sure you adjust your browser to see that. So things you can update there is email, addresses, phone numbers. So be aware that you could do that also for adults. If there are adults switching positions, that's where you can do this, is with that pencil icon. All right, I've kind of used numbers on the screenshot relating to what I talked about. So what I just explained about editing with the pencil icon. So I highlighted with the 1 next to the pencil. And then other tips and tricks I have is for number 2 that I have over on the left side of that screenshot is marking adults as multiple registration in your unit is done by clicking on manage members and select in the drop down mark as multiple. A new screen will pop up where you're going to select, is it another unit? And it'll have a huge drop down. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to be in numerical order. You have to scroll through the whole thing to find it. sometimes. Or it might be, you know, that your person is in a district position. They might be a district member at large or a district committee member. If that's the case, you're going to select non-unit registrant for that non-unit position. And then you would just have, you might have to type in like the district that they're in that pop-up window and apply it then. That should switch the fee to 0 when you do that. If it doesn't, you didn't do something right. So hopefully that gives you some tips on that for doing the multiples. Then number 3 is relating to refreshing the roster. So you discovered that you have some adults that are showing red mark for youth protection training, not current. That means you're not going to be able to submit the recharter. That's a hard error. We cannot get past it. So if that happens to you, you do want to reach out to the registrant, have them retake their youth protection training, and then you will need to refresh your roster in order to bring that completion in. One thing I heard last year that was happening, hopefully National has fixed this issue, but if they haven't, I want you to be aware. Make sure if you're refreshing the roster and you have put members in your removed members queue. And if you look at the top of the screen by number 4, you see where that is at, and there's a number next to it. So you might want to keep track of how many you put in there. If you click on it, it'll have a drop down of the people that you put in there, but I would double check that and make sure it didn't wipe it out. The other thing about my tips and tricks is cost to expect in the recharter. PACs, troops, and crews, your youth members, and participants. Participants, I mean, those are 18 years old. That cost is $160, or it's $175 if that person is adding on $15 Scout Life the subscription. Adult members in PACs, troops, and crews are $75. And there have been some instances where the adult really wants to get Scout Life, so know that it's another addition at $15 for them. Then exploring posts, youth participants, and that range is an 18 to 21-year-old, up to 21-year-old. And then the adult members, anyone over 21, their fee across the board for all those positions is $65. The chartering fee for all units is $100. Okay, here's where I'm going to make a plug. The recommended pay option is to select pay at council. And I'm making a plug for that is because that's the only way I can change anything that you've submitted. If you select the other 2 options of credit card, and remember with the credit card, you're going to get a 3% administration fee assessed on with that. Or if you choose an e-check, and there's a $1 fee assessed with that, I cannot make changes, especially no changes that would affect the financial fee summary of that recharter. So I'm telling you, pay at council is the option you want to do. The tricky part of that is when you're in that field, you do have to start typing in whoever's processing first and last name, or it looks like you're starting to put information in for the credit card, but then down at the bottom, it's the bottom selection in the bubble next to pay at council, you select that. I will tell you that if there are changes that have to be done to your charter, you could reach out to me via email for that. I prefer that so I can keep a paper trail. I need to attach that to the charter of any changes that our Key 3 leader is submitting to me. So please send an email with that request, but preferably communicate your changes to me by the end of 2023 so that they're more likely to be accommodated. Because once I start processing charters from January to the end of February, if I don't get that email on time, I might have already posted your unit. So FYI on that. The council incentive, and those of you who've done this in the past know that we have typically offered an incentive. We would like to have these on time. It allows me a chance to look at the charters in advance, make sure that we have everything in place, that there's not any hard errors that I'm going to have to work through, or I should say warnings, because you won't be able to submit with errors. You can submit with some warnings. I will make sure that's not any difficult warnings to work through in advance. So if you can submit your charter by Friday, December 15th of this year, and have your full payment submitted, also submitted an online form that will be on that Recharter assistance page. If anyone who's gone on already, they will notice it's not on there yet. I had set this up with Barbara, but that was missed. And so it's going to be corrected that that online form will be linked there. But that online form is going to have where you post the date you're okay with somebody from the council coming to do a Friends of Scouting presentation sometime before April 30th, 2024. And also you're going to fill in the list of authorized unit account users for your unit's custodial account here at the council office. And that's the account I use to pull the recharter fees from, pull registration fees from. And that's also what you guys use for posting or getting charges of the advancement product that you order when you come into our scout shop. So if we get those three things by Friday, December 15th, you will get your charter fee of $100 waived. And I will apply that with the successful posting of the recharter, meaning I can post it in the membership database. And then I've also able to apply those fees to the account. There's fees there so that I can post it there also. So that will be waived at the same time. Then what I ask you to do after you've submitted your charter, so hopefully you guys are taking advantage of $100. So after December 15th, you will want to complete your charter agreement form. So for packs, troops, and crews, that's called the annual unit charter agreement. For exploring posts, it's called the memorandum of understanding. And these forms are linked on the Recharter assistance page of our website. A big note in yellow there. Note that any recharters requiring the registrar to post manually will lose access to Scoutbook and internet advancement tools if not posted before March 1st, 2024. You have no fears if you've done internet recharter, because that ends on January 31st. You're golden on that. You're going to have access to Scoutbook tools. But if I'm having to do a manual charter for you because you either missed the window for internet recharter or you're not comfortable doing it, then I need the information in order to do the manual charter before March 1st, or you do lose access to those tools. You can't get advancement order reports in, and you won't be able to do advancements for your youth. You will see basically no roster. So I highly encourage you to start work with me, if you know that you won't be doing an internet recharter, that you're going to do a manual one. So any questions? I guess if you are in the process, this is after our training here, and you are comfortable with starting your process and you run into a problem, you can contact me, and there's my email and there is my phone number, and that's my direct line. A lot of you know that I do work usually after 5 o'clock, and the only way you're going to get me is if you call that direct line, because the general number for us, it will go to after hours and not answer. So I guess now I think I want to leave this up in case there's some questions that are asked, and I have to refer back to the slide deck. Frankie, are you able to tell
Yeah,
me?
so we got one question here. And so referring back to if there's a scout in the troop who is turning 18 in February, do they need to submit an adult application, criminal background check page, and youth protection certificate with them at Recharter?
So you don't with the recharter, but however, please submit it with if you're paying at the council, you're coming in with a payment anyway, bring those paper documents into me so that I'm able to process it right after I post your charter and make sure that that person is in an appropriate role.
Which would also mean that they would be marked as a youth on the Recharter.
Right. And so if you notice, if you keep a person as a participant, that's still going to be the youth fee. If you are deciding you want to move an 18-year-old to an adult position, and that's only possible with troops and crews right now, that would mean I have to, that'll be the adult fee then, the $75, if I change it with the charter, but I can't if they're not 18 yet. So unfortunately, it is a youth fee. Good question.
Looks like Emily also has a question.
Yeah. Okay, so I was just looking at this roster and I'm seeing like half of the names I've not met anybody, or they've not been in any meetings since I started like a month ago. So like, do I reach out to them and see if they're still interested, or like what do you do with all these extras?
And I happen to know that you're in, Emily, so I know you have a unique situation. So to be safe, I would say, yes, you do want to reach out to them. I would give them 2 opportunities. I would do an email, and then a few days later, try the phone number that you see listed on the roster. If you get no response, then you're probably safe to remove them.
And so I would be in charge of removing them. Is that correct?
What if you are the one that is going to go in and do that internet recharter?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mentioned it in yesterday's meeting and they said it's already done. So I don't know if I.
So here's the issue I have. Many people think Scout Book and My.Scouting are the same thing. They are not. So you are able to end membership on your Scout Book roster, and then you won't see them on the roster view. However, their membership has been paid till the end of the year, and they're still on your my.scouting.org roster. You will need to remove them in the internet recharter process.
Okay, I'll just follow the steps you laid out here anyway, even though they've said it's done, and I'm gonna assume it's not. So, and just do what I can.
Yep. Okay, good question, because that really highlighted how Scout Book is very different than My.Scouting. Anything else?
So next question here in the chat. Is the unit college reserve position an adult or participant position? And
That
what is a participant position?
Yep. So I'll see if I can explain better difference between participant and adults. And I think that person probably posing it is from a troop. They kind of have a unique situation, especially if you have a scout that is pursuing Eagle rank and they are awaiting potentially Eagle board of review, or maybe they were approved. I don't know of any right now in our council, or if they were approved for extension of time to finish the Eagle Scout rank. That is where, especially when they've turned 18, they need to be moved to a participant position. So think about those special situations that you might have for some scouts that are pushing the limit. They're going to get to their 18th birthday, or just after the recharter get to their 18th birthday. you want to be prepared for submitting the paper documents to me with your recharter of the adult app, YPT completion, and the background check consent form, so I can move them to participant, and there's not going to be any issues with their Eagle Scout rank being validated by me. Then the other part of that question was the Unit College Scouter Reserve. So there is a Unit College Scouter Reserve position and a Unit Scouter Reserve. The college one is for those registrants that are 18, 19, 20. And then the Scouter Reserve can be used for 21-year-olds and older. The Scouter Reserve position is a good one for somebody who's going to be very intermittently helping out with your unit. They may only come to summer camp with you. They're not going to be a regular person to be there for troop meetings or for your campouts. So that's a good position for that person because it only requires the youth protection training. Whereas if you have someone who's regularly attending, you should have them in the assistant scout master position. And that is the other approved adult position for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds in your unit, in your troop. So if I have any exploring post people here, the participant is for those people that aren't already employed in that post organization, like whether it's a law enforcement agency or whether it's a fire department or EMS unit. Those would be what you think is your youth members, but they are actually 18, 19, or 20. You want to have them as an exploring participant. Hopefully I answered that. It's a really tricky area.
So Mark added some guidance to help Emily with your situation there. Just that when you're reaching out to people, make sure you tell them what's going to happen if you don't hear from them. So in our pack, we told folks basically, hey, here's your deadline to pay, or else we're going to drop you. And then, and here's what happens. You have to fill out a new application, and you would pay your $160 at that point.
Okay, so if what is the deadline? Because the rechartering is the last day, or what December 15th. So then what do you usually say for deadlines as far as resubmitting? I don't know, like re-upping your registration.
Well, you probably saw my slide deck that I volunteer for other units, and we have had a November deadline, like a November 15th deadline. That way we know we've got the payment in hand,
right?
And that they are legitimately wanting to be rechartered.
Okay. Oh, so you mentioned that you were gonna put this on a website somewhere. I'm not sure. I just wanted to make sure that didn't get forgotten here at the end, because I wanted to re-listen to this about 2 or 3 more times.
Yep. Give us a day or two to do it, but that's our intention, to get this recorded version on that recharter assistance page. And Emily, I'm going to tell you, and all my people that are, if you're a key 3 leader, let me qualify for that, because I know I have some different people on here right now. I will send this slide deck out to the key 3 leaders in our council.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm going to need all the help I can get.
But I want to qualify that this is only my tips and tricks. It's not the Internet Recharter guidebook that will actually show you what the screens look like as you're going through the process. You still want to go to our website and you want to get that link to that guide. What I did when I did recharters for the units that I volunteer for, I have it in my queue on my taskbar, and then I can pull it up if I need to look at how the screen was. Oh yeah, I got to remember to do that here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that this would all be built built into the calendar up front, but our Cub Scout unit doesn't even have a calendar yet. You know, like it's got holes in it, and it's definitely patchwork right
So
now.
Emily, am I okay to tell what unit you're in? Because there might be others
Sure.
on this call that are very willing to help you out with some
Yeah,
suggestions and ideas.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Emily is with PAC 94, the Lake City PAC. And so if there's others on here that are interested, she would appreciate any help you can give. And Emily, if you know how to get in that chat, you may want to put your email in there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that now.
And so I put the direct link to the page Pam has been referring to, the Recharter assistance page. And if you are on there, it does actually, in the middle of the second paragraph, there's a hyperlink to the Recharter turn-in item form. That was a mouthful.
Thanks. I'll check it out.
Anything else?
There's one other question that I already answered in the chat, but for the sake of anybody too shy to ask, yes, each unit, PAC, boy troop, girl troop, does a separate recharter through the online process.
So there are some new people on here. There's one thing I didn't put in here because it's in that Internet Recharter Guide, 2024 Internet Recharter Guide. And I'll rename my slide deck for Pam's tips and tricks for recharter so you don't get confused. But that is for when you have submitted your charter, there's several steps that follow. It's not completely done yet when you submit the charter. There is going to be a series of emails you will receive. One is that it shows that the charter was successfully submitted, but then there should be another one that's sent just directly after that, that you need to click on a link to Adobe Acrobat sign the charter. And that is really designed for the chartered org rep to do that, but some are not computer savvy. And so it might be up to the unit leader or the committee chair or the executive officer of a post or the Explorer advisor to do that. And they can do that with the grace approval of the chartered org rep, or in the case of a post, the executive officer. You can sign for them. And then once that is done, there is a recharter roster that is sent to all the key 3 leaders. Last year, the key 3 delegates did not receive these emails. I would not anticipate that they will be able to do that. So if you have delegated a key 3 delegate person to do your internet recharter, note that they will most likely get that email or the email to Adobe Sign. So somebody will want to take care of that then for them. Is there any new ones, Frankie?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. You know how you can reach out to me. I will send this deck out tomorrow to all the key 3 leaders. And I will tell you that if you look closely at that recharter assistance page, there are a few dates that are wrong on it. You know, even I had to reread my slide deck like 10 times to make sure I wasn't putting 2023 instead of 2024. So give us a chance to correct some mistakes on there. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Frankie, for enabling this and for recording it, because I had a lot of people reach out to me. Everybody's busy, everybody volunteers for different things. So it's great that we have this opportunity to put this on our website and have it available for viewing later, like Emily said.
Thanks for putting this together. Very helpful.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Well,
Pam.
I'll stop sharing.